Using F# in Visual Studio 2010, the VS 2010 Pro Power Tools extension. In this video, I'll talk about the Pro Power Tools extension for Visual Studio 2010. I'll be covering the Visual Studio Extension Manager and Visual Studio Gallery, which are ways that make it easy to find, download, and install various extensions and add-ons to Visual Studio. And then in particular, I'll talk about the VS 2010 Pro Power Tools, which contain a number of features. I'll just talk about a subset of them that are particularly relevant to F# users. Let's get started. The Visual Studio Extension Manager. The Extension Manager in Visual Studio 2010 is a new feature that makes it easy to access and install Visual Studio extensions. To bring up the Extension Manager, go to the Tools menu and click on Extension Manager. The Extension Manager makes it easy to manage the extensions that you already have installed on your machine, or to go visit the online gallery and browse for other extensions that you might want to download. It's easy to search for a particular keyword, as well as organize the search results in a number of different ways when browsing through the online gallery. Alternatively, you can visit the Visual Studio Gallery on the web in order to do more browsing to find V6 extensions for VS 2010 or other extensions and add-ons to other versions of Visual Studio. The Extension Gallery is available for any individual, company, or third party to publish Visual Studio 2010 extensions. Microsoft itself uses the gallery as a way to publish extensions out of band from the normal releases of Visual Studio, which typically only happen every couple of years. Today we're going to take a look at a particular extension published by Microsoft, the Visual Studio 2010 Pro Power Tools, which provide a number of features and enhancements to Visual Studio. Column guides, or guidelines, in Visual Studio. Visual Studio column guides, or guidelines, are vertical lines that run through an editor window. I currently have my guidelines colored red so that they stand out for the purposes of this demo. To add a guideline, I simply position my cursor in a particular column, right-click, and select Add Guideline, and this will add a guideline in that particular column. Similarly, if I want to remove a guideline, I can right-click on the guideline and say Remove Guideline to make that guideline disappear. If I want to change the color of my guidelines, I can right-click and select Guideline Color and either choose from the basic color options or pick my own custom color. Personally, I prefer a guideline color that is similar to my editor background color, so that the guidelines mostly fade into the background unless I'm looking specifically at them. F# is a whitespace significant language, which means that indentation matters for control constructs. With some code, it can be hard to tell where the indentation is and where something appears in a control construct. For example, if I'm looking at this if statement right here, and I scroll back up, whoops, was that indented under the while, or under this for loop, or perhaps under this one? I'm not sure. This is where guidelines can come to the rescue. Here's that same code again, this time with guidelines enabled. Now if I'm looking at this if statement, it's easy for my eye to follow the guideline, so that as I scroll up, I can see that the if was aligned with this particular for statement. Since I use the coding convention of 4 spaces for every indent, I put a guideline at column 4, column 8, column 12, and so forth to make it easy to see the indents. I also keep a guideline at column 80, since occasionally some coding conventions or other restrictions require that code go no wider than 80 columns. Next up, the Pro Power Tools replacement for the Add Reference dialog. One extension in the Pro Power Tools that I think is likely to be very popular is a replacement for the Add Reference dialog. Your previous experience with the Add Reference dialog may be that it's been slow or frustrating to use, but the new dialog pops up very quickly The very first time that you run it, it will cache all of the assemblies so that it comes up quick in the future. And if you want to add assemblies, you can just click on them and click Add. A green check mark will appear next to the assembly. Or if you want to remove assembly, you can just go to that assembly and click Remove. Just as with the old dialog, if you want to select multiple things at a time, you can hold down Control and press Click in order to make multiple selections. As before, there's a Projects tab, which allows you to reference other projects inside your solution. The Recent tab, which shows you assemblies you've recently touched. The Com tab. And the assemblies have been broken up into those assemblies that are part of the .NET framework and other extensions. And when we look at those extensions, it will often tell us what product those extensions are from, such as Visual Studio or Microsoft Office. Finally, it's very easy to search the extensions. For example, I can type in PRES, and we get those assemblies that contain that substring in their name. I think you'll find this new Add Reference dialog a whole lot more pleasant to use. The ProPowerTools Document tab well. When you have a lot of files open in Visual Studio, it can be hard to keep track of and access them all. The new Document tab well makes this a bit easier in a number of ways. For example, here I have a solution with 4 different projects, and the files are color-coded on the tabs based on what project they've come from. There are a number of different ways that you can customize the Document tab well. If you right-click in a blank area and click Customize, or otherwise go to the Tools, Options, Environment, Document tab well settings, you'll see a lot of customizable options, both in terms of how things are organized and the color coding. If you want to show tabs vertically, for example, I can do that, and then all of my files will be listed here with the actual code over here. Alternatively, if you want things in the normal VS 2008 or 2010 styles, you can get that too. I'd encourage you to play around with the Document tab well customization settings. There are a number of other features in the extension. In this segment, I'll cover the first 4 bullets on this slide. You may have noticed throughout this video already that wherever my cursor is, the current line is being highlighted. You can configure the highlight color by going to the Tools, Options menu, Environment, Fonts and Colors, and in the settings for Text Editor, select the colors for the current line for either the active or an inactive window. While it's always been the case that you could double-click an identifier to highlight and select that identifier, with the extension, you can triple-click a line and it will highlight that entire line. The extension also makes it easy to move whole lines of code up or down using the keyboard shortcut Alt down and Alt up to move the line down or up. And finally, if you have a group of assignment statements, you can use the keyboard shortcut Control Alt right bracket to align all of the equal signs or assignment operators in the same column. A couple other noteworthy features of the extension are HTML copy and control click for go to definition. With HTML copy, it's never been easier to cut and paste code from Visual Studio into other applications. For example, I can highlight and copy this code and paste it directly into Windows Live Writer and have all of my colors, indentation, and formatting be preserved as well-formed HTML to put in a blog entry. With control-click go to definition, if I hold down the control key, then any identifiers become go to definition hyperlinks. While you could always right-click on an identifier and say go to definition, or press F12, with control-click, I can simply control-click an identifier to go to its definition. There are even more features to the ProPowerTools that I'm not showing in this video. So I'd encourage you to go to the Extension Manager, Online Gallery, install the VS 2010 ProPowerTools, and explore some on your own. I'll be sure to link some documentation from my blog.
As always, if you want to learn more about F#, you can visit my blog or the F# Developer Center at fsharp.net.